I just wanted to make sure.
Here we go. All right, so hi Zaina.
Hey Zaina, miss you.
Hi. Feel better.
Okay, so
Respond to my
Chloe,
text. Your Belgian friend.
what's the top connotation to you of Greece?
Sweet.
I asked Chloe, let's be orderly. Mythological. Okay.
That's a good one.
Okay.
I got that one.
Can you please be quiet so we can get this done quickly? What? Architectural. Intellectual.
Democratic. Historic.
You kind of said everything.
Okay.
Art. Athletic.
Art, athletic, beautiful,
Elegant.
elegant.
Any word we think of?
I was going to say like history.
Okay, so if they've already said something and you don't have anything to add, then just say pass.
I have powerful.
Lavish.
Polytheist, city, state, temple, debate, math.
Be quiet.
Those are nouns.
Yeah.
Okay. Debate, that's interesting. Huh? Civilized. So, let's see. One more time. Let me see if my room, this is like the first day of class. Mythological, architectural, intellectual, democratic, historic,
Art.
artistic, athletic,
Think of me.
meganic,
Beautiful.
beautiful. We're talking about ancient Greece here. Elegant. Pass, pass, pass. Powerful. What does that mean?
Like they
What
were
sort of power?
powerful, like armies or like.
Militarily powerful.
Yeah.
Okay. Naharika, you?
Lavish.
Lavish.
Polytheist.
Quiet. Polytheist.
I have city, state,
City-state.
temple, and debate, and math, and
Math.
peninsula. And money.
Peninsula and money. What does
Wow.
Greece have to do with money?
I don't know, drachma.
Drachma. Okay.
Name one country that
Pass, pass. Civilized. Okay. How very, very interesting. Okay. How many of you have been to Athens?
When I was a baby.
You know, I've never been to Athens.
Me neither.
Have you been? No. Oh, okay. Your hand's up because you've been in your head. What were your thoughts of Athens, Colin Gunn?
A lot of temples everywhere. And just the build.
Did it feel civilized?
Yeah, there's definitely
What?
an order of power. Like there's some bigger buildings are more important than some of the smaller ones.
So these ancient ruins,
Yeah.
even though they're ancient ruins, they still felt powerful.
Yeah,
Big marble temples.
like big.
Okay. Did it feel civilized?
Yeah.
Yeah? Did it feel elegant?
Not some of the ruins were kind of ruined.
Doggone it, that's the second time I've done that. Okay, get ready for your pop quiz. Here it comes.
My sister watches
Geography
that
quiz.
show.
Geography quiz. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Wait, are we seriously taking it now?
Okay, Naharika, relax.
Oh, he laughed.
Okay, this is
The Black Sea.
B is. No, stop. Notice, letters are water, numbers are
Oh.
land.
I knew that.
Okay, so B is.
B is Caspian Sea.
C is.
Mediterranean.
D is.
Atlantic.
Ocean.
I
E
don't-
is.
Indian Ocean.
F is.
Pacific Ocean.
Oh gosh, I don't know this.
Wait.
One is.
Yeah.
Two is.
China.
Oh my God, this is so hard. Three is.
Japan.
Four is.
Africa.
Five.
Wait, is that it?
Scotland! Scotland!
Scandinavia.
Scandinavia.
I said
Because notice, this is
Scotland.
not a country map, this is a region map. 6,
Australia.
7.
Middle Eastern.
I will not accept that because look exactly where it is.
Iraq. Oh,
Mesopotamia.
Turkey.
Oh,
Jordan.
no.
Saudi Arabia.
Israel.
Mesopotamia, thank you.
That's what
Because
we said.
when water is potable, that means we can do what with it?
Mesopotamia.
Drink it. Mesopote, water, Potamia, middle of the two rivers. What are those two rivers named? Tigris and Euphrates. You know, I mean, this is just like what educated people know. Why? Because this is where the first writing happened, the first city happened, the Tigris Euphrates. And it is Iraq. You're right. Today. Okay, 8.
Egypt.
Yep.
Egypt.
And 9.
I don't even know what I know.
Okay, now.
X.
Which are the four original Eurasian river valley civilizations? The earliest four.
Mesopotamia, Nile,
Arca.
Look at the map.
Tigris and Euphrates.
That's Mesopotamia. Chloe?
Mesopotamia, Egypt, Indus, and China.
Mesopotamia, Egypt, Indus, and China. Yeah, so those are the four, and that's where it really starts. That's where cities start. That's where civilization starts on this thing. All right. So anyway, just in case you don't believe me that I'm preparing this quiz and all sort of stuff, I've got a Middle East one too. But let me name that one. Okay. Oh, it's already in the quiz, but whatever. So this is Afro-Eurasia.
Is that going to be on Google?
Yeah. Okay, now.
This is an Afro.
Are you singing Christmas carols already?
Please don't sing Christmas carols. I've already heard like soul.
Okay, keep your focus, my young children. Keep that focus. You can do it. You can do it, you little brats. I'm sorry, was that my outside voice? Okay.
Thank you.
I don't want to laugh for Christmas.
What happened?
Then I could have invented democracy if I was alive at that time.
We're playing Snow Day with you.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, we're also playing chestnuts roasted and open fire. And you'll do even when I heard.
I mean, I could have just used the leaves, but
Our song is the
Quiet! It's good, wasn't it?
That was a good one.
Come on now.
Can you do that little whistle where you go?
No, I can't whistle. Too cool for that.
Too cool for school.
Okay.
Nobody notices when we get mean. We're just behind a box and no one cares about it.
No one notices when you get what?
Okay.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice.
We never see you It's like purple and orange.
Oh, are you dissing her glasses? Excuse me. Namerica, I love your glasses. Haters gonna hate. No, I'm just kidding. I was kidding.
Oh, you're still here. Respond to my text
Forget
message.
about it. I'll just do this. I'm too tired.
That was for Zaina, by the
I'm gonna
way.
let my phone teach. You think I'm kidding?
Wait,
My
Lale,
phone is gonna teach you right now.
who is, do you know a guy that starts with a S? What's his name?
Quiet!
Yeah. Okay, can you name me some?
Goodness, I have to start getting mean
Just
with you.
because I need
You're
to.
starting to ignore me. I'm blowing the conch and you're just ignoring me.
Oh my god.
Oh my
I didn't hear the conch
We're
though.
becoming savage. Your teeth are dirty, your hair needs cutting. You haven't washed your clothes in ages. You're peeing and pooping everywhere.
That'd be funny if we only had to live in here.
So we were talking about how the new empire
Yes. Wow.
has the name of Babylon. The Babylonian Empire. Mesopotamia is overthrown by... Please don't hum. Alright? Your attitude for the last 2 days has been kind of like, I'm pissy and I don't want to be here. Your body language, your all sorts of... Audio. It said World 39 Israel. Two-face. Look at him, he's like, what? That what?
Oh my god.
Okay, so now I gotta find that bloody thing after all. Gosh. Have we had a normal schedule this week?
No.
Tomorrow's gonna be flex. I know, and tomorrow's flex.
Oh my god, I have flex and then I have free. Oh my god, that's awesome.
Oh my god, Namerica.
I'm lucky.
Here we go. I'm about to do this shizzle. Alright.
No, please.
I'm sorry, and I might the entire rap.
This is important. Sit, stop. Oh, you children.
This is why we can't live with girls in the forest, because they're going to be like, oh my god, my hair's going to get wet.
I would just chop all my hair off. Like, I would just... I would definitely, if living in the forest, might as well.
Might as well. Nobody's going to see me again, so...
Maybe I'll just, like, weave it into a basket or something. I don't even know. I would just cook. Like what?
Not on your head, but like.
It could be
Great.
It could be
if
like
you ever plan
cut.
no, if you ever plan on getting like straight on the island, take it with you. I'll give you like my hair.
And then we'll make a blanket out of it that's big enough to like cover us all.
Here we go.
The one strand each guy.
Yeah. Naharka's hair. What?
I would love to get
No, don't.
or like those cut hair, like they're
Like Isabel.
I want to be he wants to be like market brand. He's like branding. What do you want to be, mathematician? Yeah. Wait, get a bob.
Absolutely horrible day I'm having. I'm glad you're all okay.
Bob.
Mr. Bro,
Yes.
can you say this?
a bob.
Can you say this really fast? How many socks can a sock tucker tuck if a sock tucker could tuck socks?
How many socks in the sock?
How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck chuck? How much
How
wood?
many socks can a sock tucker tuck?
Yeah. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
How many socks can a sock tucker tuck if a sock?
How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a wood? Suck, talk, talk, suck, talk, sock.
Seriously.
How many?
Did you see that thing on my story though? Because I posted it.
What is going on with my life?
There's only
How many socks can a sock tucker
45
tuck?
seconds of that.
Is there a military helicopter that always flies over here, or am I just like deja vu?
Okay. Oh my
How many socks
goodness.
can a sock tucker tuck if a sock tucker could?
It would help if you turned on the freaking stereo. Okay, now, seriously.
Abraham in 2000, Moses in 1200,
Were you tired?
David in
Around.
1000,
I'm feeling
Babylon
fairly groovy.
destroying
So just
the first
take it groovy.
Solomon, and what was it, 5?
Because this is the deep part. This is like, this is it. This is why it's interesting.
In 586, right?
I'm serious though, this is interesting.
Activity.
We just gotta make it loud enough.
You should
Hey,
trust the
World
man.
Studies 9. Listen, I just wanted to tell you that, yeah, the bell was ringing, and yeah, we got all the way from, geez, no pun intended, talking about Israel, from,
Jeez, Israel.
Abraham 2000, Moses 1200, David 1000 to the Babylonians destroying the first temple of Solomon in, what was it, 536 or 5? It was 586. In 586, right? First big disaster that starts the Babylonian captivity. And then maybe 100 years later,
Only 50, really.
in comes the Persians with their, like the granddaddy of the guy who did 300 movies, Xerxes or Darius or Cyrus or somebody. Who was the guy in your, come on, that's your movie, right? All these big muscly boys from House of Pain going and flexing their biceps and six packs.
Cyrus.
Killing each other, acting all macho, that's your stuff.
Who was the Cyrus
Hollywood,
guy?
Greece.
Was it Xerxes or
yeah.
Cyrus? It was in the movie 300.
I don't know. I actually don't know. I've never seen it before, so.
Okay, well, it's coming. Notice, because notice, I
Why'd you
want
just
you to
rip
remember
that
that the
all out?
Greeks and the Israel like keeps crisscrossing here because Persia's going over to fight Greece. Well, guess whose neighborhood they have to go through? Israel is very unlucky. It's right at the intersection of the three big empires: Egypt, Babylonian, and the Greek.
Yeah, so anyway, yeah, so them coming and kicking the Babylonians' butts, and most importantly, doing this,
Hello.
Alexis.
freeing the Jews from the Babylonian captivity and returning them to their promised land
Persians.
that God promised them forever and ever. And see, they said, we were right. God was right. God keeps his promises to us. And so off they went to build a second temple to the one God, because the one God means the one temple and the one promised land given to Abraham. And they did. They built it. And they thanked God for making Persia an empire so that Persia would return them to their land. And then Alexander came, tried to put Zeus in the temple, and those weird monotheists ticked off the Greeks too. But strangely enough, Alexander the Great didn't wipe out the second temple. He must have been distracted with other things. He wasn't there. He was busy trying to conquer India next. And this is around the year, say, 350. And then the Alexandrian Empire crumbles, and the next empire to come along, and the last one, thank goodness, is the Roman. And they take Judah, what used to be called Israel, as part of their empire. And they get sick and tired of the monotheists too, just like all the other empires of the normal ancient world, polytheist, nature-loving, got ticked off, every single one of them. And they get tired of these Jewish terrorists trying to overthrow the Roman Empire and gain freedom and independence in their promised land. And so we talked about how about 30 years after Jesus died, the Roman Empire got so sick of them that they too destroyed God's only temple all over again. So first temple destroyed by the Babylonians, now the second one, the Roman Empire got so sick of them that they too destroyed God's only temple all over again. So first temple destroyed by the Babylonians, now the second one destroyed by the Romans.
Now that's hugely important. The Romans just destroyed the one God's only one temple all over again. So Jerusalem has built a temple once, Babylonians. Roman, they built it again, and the Persians, Roman. Watch what happens.
Maybe that's why the Roman Empire is often called the whore of Babylon, because it destroyed the second temple. The Christians call it that. And Babylon destroyed the first one. So anyway, my point is this. I just lied to you. Because the Roman Empire was not the last empire to take the Holy Land.
Can anybody guess what the next empire was to take the Holy Land? Huh?
Greece.
Palestine.
Alexander is a Greek. That's the only time the Greeks ever took it.
Palestine.
The Rome. Martin.
Muslims. Muslims.
Yeah, because they have the temple.
Okay, so listen to this, because again, the world is fearful that World War III is going to break out. Here's the story. Here's why. So when things start happening on the front page and on CNN, and you should hate this because you're ninth graders and you know the news still doesn't make sense to you. Be honest. You hear Palestinians and Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, and Hamas and Palestinian Liberation Organization and the Gaza Strip and the West Bank and blah blah blah, and you're like, "Buh?" Right? Because you're young. I'm trying to make you understand a story that when I was your age, it was the same story. It was always in the headlines. The whole world comes there saying, please, 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 don't. It's going to keep happening. You want to win the Nobel Prize for peace? Solve this problem. Because when I was your age, it was always in the headlines, and it has not changed a bit. It was horrible then, it's still horrible now, and it's all because of this old stuff. Here we go. Zach, put your sexy triceps back under your sexy lime green shirt.
Here's the important part. Not only did the Romans destroy the temple, they also kicked out the Jews. I didn't give you this vocab where the bell rang. The word for this deportation of all people, this dispersing of them, this...
Does anybody know the word?
Deportation.
Diaspora.
Oh, okay, it's down there, yeah, diaspora.
Diaspora.
It's not diaspora, it's diaspora. Photography, diaspora.
Photography. Diaspora.
Not photography, diaspora. Da 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 da. Don't you know your trochees and iams?
Spreading them like blowing dust in every direction is called the diaspora. And you know dia means a cross, diagram. What's the other word for?
Diaphragm.
You do something in geometry that has
What's a diaphragm?
dia. Oh, diameter, right? But anyway, so they dispersed the Jews in this thing called the diaspora, Diaspora. And so the Jews were once again deported. The Babylonians deported them during the Babylonian captivity. The Romans didn't capture them. The Romans just forced them to go anywhere. That's not Jerusalem and Israel, or what was called Judah at the time. Because they just got sick of them. So they're like, you are now homeless. And so the Jews wandered. They wandered into North Africa. They wandered into sub-Saharan Africa. They wandered into the Middle East, into Iraq, into Iran, into Russia, into Europe, Spain, France, England. They even wandered to China. And so they were like dust, just blown in the wind all over Afro-Eurasia, the Jews, and they never came back until 10 years before I was born, and we're talking about 60 years after Jesus died. All that time, their promised land was not theirs. So here's the last part of this epic story, and it brings us back to that picture of the Golden Dome. I lied to you when I said that the Roman Empire was the last empire to take that land. Because when the Roman Empire fell, about 100 years later, Abraham's wild desert bastard son's religion, Ishmael, the Arab, exploded from the Arabian desert and conquered the Promised Land. And because they too were the sons of Abraham, they built that golden domed Dome of the Rock on top of the site of the second temple that the Romans had destroyed. This is an epic story. They did that in the 600s. World War II broke out.
Yep.
What is the year?
In the 600s is when they built the Dome of the Rock.
No, but when did they take over?
In the 600s. So Muhammad received his message from God. Moses heard from God. Of course, Paul and Jesus, the Christians, they heard from this God. And now the Arabs hear from this God. The funny thing is, when the When God talks to the Jews are like, yeah, he did. And then when God talks to to Christians, the Jews are like, no, he didn't. The Christians are like, yeah, he did. Why don't you believe us? And then an Arab goes, hundreds of years later, Allah talked to me, God talked to me, the God of Abraham, the same God. And the Christians who have just been said, you're crazy from these guys, look at these guys and say, you're crazy, right? In the 600s, Allah gets a visit from Raphael the angel, who recites to him God's final word. The Mormons say that God came back and gave them the Book of Mormon, which is the same God, updating his word in history, and the Quran. Muhammad wrote down what the angel Raphael, Gabriel, I don't remember, recited to him. Do you have any Muslims in the house?
It's not 600.
Who recited it to him?
Zaina. Sorry.
Isn't it funny? The Christians don't know the 4 books of got Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We all just have a membership card. That's it. Huh? What?
Did you just say the first 4 books of the Bible?
Yeah.
The Old Testament?
Yeah. You gonna bust it out?
Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy.
Okay, keep going. That's easy. That's the Torah.
Wait. Keep thinking. I know this.
Deuteronomy,
No,
First.
it's not king. No, is it king?
You know what? Who cares? Because all you're doing is memorizing the multiplication table. What goes on in those books?
Don't know.
Anyway.
Genesis,
All right, so Alex,
creation of the
Islam
world.
conquers the entire medieval period after the Roman Empire falls. And now Arabs rule.
Well, backing up a little bit, the Jews started trying to get out of Europe around
World War II.
before World War I because people hated Jews in Europe and they were doing prejudiced things to them. And so the Jews started, a lot of them wanted to go back to the Promised Land. And they did, just little by little start trickling back in. But only after Hitler tried to eliminate all of them genocidally did the United Nations say, we've got to do something about human rights because we're not good at observing them out of our hearts. We kill people over religion. And so they gave they gave the Jews part of this land that Muslims had been living in Palestine. Since the 600s, it had been a Muslim place. So for the last 1,400 years, that promised land, maybe God promised it to Abraham, but even the Arabs can say, yeah, and Abraham's our father. So now Jerusalem is back in the hands of the Jews, government. They have the power, but they have a large, possibly even majority population of Muslims to deal with. And so even though they want to rebuild, the most religious of them, want to rebuild or create a third temple, they would have to destroy the third most important building in the Muslim religion to do that. That's how that whole World War III thing comes in. Okay. And so the whole world is watching because the Jewish government, depending on how religious and how conservative and how extreme it is, it does have the power to say, go, tear down the Dome of the Rock. And if and when that day ever happens, you watch every single Muslim country in the world react, especially the neighbors of Israel, Syria, Iraq, Egypt, Lebanon. So that's enough. Now you really do have a great understanding, not only of where the ancient Bible came from, but also what matters today. One reason. Okay, bye.
It's important that you know that. That one, SAS's campus is bigger than this little area in this fairly small town of Jerusalem, really. It's got the most bizarre history in the world. 2 temples built and destroyed, and then on top of the ruins of it, a Muslim And they call this the Holy Land, but it's also the land that could like really, really go nuclear. Do any of you know that it's boiling up again?
What?
It's boiling up again. Jerusalem's boiling up again. It's in the news. Yeah?
Did you see that the U.S. gave part of the
Muslim land.
Muslim area to the Jews?
The United Nations did.
The United Nations all
After World War II. We Western Christians all felt so horrible for the Jews because Hitler with his gas ovens, his gas chambers and his ovens to burn them after he gassed them, made us think, oh gosh, this is an ugly moment in European history. We need to do something for these Jews. They thought, first, well, where are we going to put them? Where would you put them? Because they didn't have a country. Where would you put the Jews? Seriously, where would you put the Jews? Who was the bad guy? Okay, Hitler. And what civilization is Hitler from?
Germany.
And Germany is part of what civilization? European Western civilization. And so what is the Western powers that, control the world after World War II? What do they say? Okay, so gosh, we just did this horrible thing to these Jews in Europe, so let's solve the problem by giving them a homeland. Where will we do it? First they thought Africa. Let's put them somewhere in Africa. And the Jews are like, over our dead body because we're not African. We want our promised land. Okay, we'll put them in a Muslim land. We'll take land from the Muslims. We did it. And we put them in a Muslim territory. And the Muslims are like, excuse me? His name wasn't like Adolf Ben Hitler, right? He's not an Arab. Why are you like... It's a bizarre thing. So anyway, so all that Dome of the Rock stuff?
Oh, I just got that. Okay.
Ben is an Arabic name for father of... Okay, here we go now. So Greece is all that, huh? What? Okay, that's all right. That's all right. I don't want to watch this one anymore. I want to watch our good friend, because he picks it up quite well.
Hi, I'm John Green. This is Crash Course World History, and today we're going to do some legitimate comp civ for those of you into that kind of thing. Sam, I can't help but feel that we have perhaps too many globes. That's better. Today we're going to learn about the horrible totalitarian Persians and the saintly democracy-loving Greeks. But of course we already know this story. There were some wars in which no one wore any shirts and everyone was reasonably fit. The Persians were bad, the Greeks were good, Socrates and Plato are awesome, the Persians didn't even philosophize. The West is the best! Go team! Yeah, well, no.
Wait a minute. All of you are like, elegant, civilized, intellectual, artistic. And he was like, yeah, go Greeks. Well, yeah, well, no. What do you think his argument's going to be?
They're actually not.
Huh?
They're not any of that?
Obviously. Why is he going to deny civilized, elegant? Because they were warring against each other? Anything else? What else do you know about the dark side of Greece? Do you know anything about the dark side of Greece?
I actually don't
a lot
know
of death.
a lot.
War between
There was a lot of
Greek
war between
city-states.
city-states, not a
War
king.
city-state war.
A lot of what? No. It's okay. It's okay to be...
Like,
Maybe this.
a lot of, like, men and women don't, like, stay together. They move a lot. They move around a lot. So,
I like adultery.
like, they,
Migrate?
like,
Immigrate?
no.
Colonize?
Like, women
Flirt?
have sex with other men. Not
Oh!
Prostitution?
Uh,
just one. So,
War?
no, I've already told you Greece was gay. I told you that, right?
No.
What?
No.
What?
We'll come back to it.
No.
No. Let's just watch and see what John Green has to say about the Greeks. And what did he say? This is very good. We're setting up all sorts of stuff is coming in this. What did he say about the Persians?
The Persians did
No,
not.
because they were bad. Why?
They didn't philosophize.
They didn't philosophize. What else? Only if you don't philosophize, you're bad. I think, therefore I am. Good. Oh, you don't get the reference. You've never heard I Think Therefore I Am?
No.
I've heard of it. I just
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, that's a famous Cartesian formula.
Cartesian?
Never mind. It's like a... Oh, never mind. So, where were we?
Why are the Persians?
Why else were the Persians bad besides the fact that they didn't philosophize? This is important.
They invaded?
No, he used an adjective.
Invasive.
What's his way?
Loving Greeks. But of course, we already know this story. There were some wars in which no one wore any shirts.
Why didn't they wear shirts? Because they loved seeing naked men.
And the saintly, democracy-loving Greeks. But of course, we're...
This is one.
And the saintly, democracy-loving Greeks. I can't help but feel that we have perhaps too many globes. That's better. Today we're going to learn about the horrible totalitarian Persians and the saintly...
Okay.
Totalitarian.
Horrible what, Persians? We've got vocab here. If I write it, you know it, because it be coming on your text. All right, so. What is it? What's that word? Can you spell it?
Totalitarian. So.
Can you break it down?
Total.
So a totalitarian, what do you think that means?
Total something.
Maybe like a something
Or
that
maybe
goes
someone who
all
goes like
together.
all out, like someone who goes all out.
Hold on now.
Something.
Talk amongst yourselves. He contrasted it with the Greeks. If you're going to contrast totalitarian Persia with Greece, what?
Maybe it's like a dictatorship.
Thank you. Don't you get it? He's like saying the democratic Greeks and the totalitarian Persians. So what is a totalitarian government?
Have all power.
Dictatorship.
Have
Oh wait,
total power.
monarch.
There's like, how do you
Is it
spell
a monarchy?
totalitarian?
What's the definition of diaspora?
Is it a monarchy?
So no, what's the definition
Total.
of diaspora?
Jews were deported.
It.
Only Jews.
Aryan.
I'm gonna look it up online.
Totalitarian.
Is it a person?
Totalitarian.
Totalitarian power. What do you think that means? Power over what?
Over everybody.
Over everybody. So here it is in a nutshell. You think what we tell you to think. You say what we tell you to say. We decide what you can say, think, believe, where you can go, what you can do, on and on and on and on. Think your Western media sort of cartoon and your Korean media cartoon stuff, North Korea. That's considered a totalitarian government. The government controls not just the movement of the people, but even their minds and their insides and everything, right? Versus democracy. Which one's good and which one's bad?
Totalitarian is bad.
Democracy-loving Greeks. But of course, we already know this story. There were some wars in which no one wore any shirts and everyone was reasonably fit. The Persians were bad. The Greeks were good. Socrates and Plato are awesome. The Persians didn't even philosophize. The West is the best. Go team! Yeah, well, no. Let's start with the Persian Empire, which became the model for pretty much all land-based empires throughout the world, except for, wait for it, the Mongols. Much of what we know about the Persians and their empire comes from an outsider writing about them, which is something we now call history. And one of the first true historians was Herodotus, whose famous book, The Persian Wars, talks about the Persians quite a bit. Now, the fact that Herodotus was Greek is important because it introduces us to the idea of historical bias, but more on that in a second. So the Persian Achaemenid dynasty, Achaemenid? Hold on. Achaemenid or Achaemenid? They're both right? I was right twice? Right, so the Persian Achaemenid or Achaemenid dynasty was founded in 539 BCE by King Cyrus the Great. Cyrus took his nomadic warriors and conquered most of Mesopotamia, including the Babylonians, which ended a sad period in Jewish history called the Babylonian exile, thus ensuring that Cyrus got great press in the Bible. But his son Darius I was even greater. He extended Persian control east to our old friend the Indus Valley, west to our new friend Egypt, and north to Crash Course newcomer Anatolia. By the way, there were Greeks in Anatolia called Ionian Greeks who will become relevant shortly. So even if you weren't Persian, the Persian Empire was pretty dreamy. For one thing, the Persians ruled with a light touch, like conquered kingdoms were allowed to keep their kings and their elites as long as they pledged allegiance to the Persian king and paid taxes, which is why the Persian king was known as the King of Kings. Plus, taxes weren't too high, and the Persians improved infrastructure with better roads, and they had this Pony Express-like mail service of which Herodotus said, "They are stayed neither by snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor darkness, from accomplishing their appointed course with all speed." And the Persians embraced freedom of religion, like they were Zoroastrian, which has a claim to be the world's first monotheistic religion. It was really Zoroastrianism that introduced us to the good-evil dualism we all know so well, you know, God and Satan, or Harry and Voldemort. But the Persians weren't very concerned about converting people of the empire to their faith. Plus, Zoroastrianism forbids slavery, and so slavery was almost unheard of in the Persian Empire. All in all, if you had to live in the 5th century BCE, the Persian Empire was probably the best place to do it, unless, that is, you believe Herodotus and the Greeks. We all know about the Greeks. Architecture, philosophy, literature. The very word music comes from Greek, as does so much else in contemporary culture. Greek poets and mathematicians and architects and philosophers founded a culture that we still identify with, and they introduced us to many ideas, from democracy to fart jokes. And the Greeks gave the West our first dedicated history. They gave us our vocabulary for talking about politics. Plus, they gifted us our idealization of democracy, which comes from the government they had in Athens. Mr. Green! Mr. Green! Mr. Green! Mr. Green! Did you say fart jokes? Oh, you don't ask about Doric, Ionian, or Corinthian columns. You don't ask about Plato's allegory of the cave. It's all scatological humor with you. It's time for the open letter? Really? Already? All right. An open letter. Stan! To Aristophanes. Dear Aristophanes. Oh, right, I have to check the secret compartment. Stan, oh. Thank you, Stan. It's fake dog poo. How thoughtful. So good news and bad news, Aristophanes. 2,300 years after your death, this is the good news. You're still reasonably famous. Only 11 of your 40 plays survived. But even so, you're called the father of comedy. There are scholars devoted to your work. Now the bad news. Even though your plays are exceptionally well translated and absolutely hilarious, students don't like to read them in schools. They're always like, why do we gotta read this boring crap? And this must be particularly galling to you because so much of what you did in your career was make fun of boring crap, specifically in the form of theatrical tragedies. Plus, you frequently used actual crap to make jokes, such as when you had the chorus in the Acharnians imagining a character in your play throwing crap at a real poet you didn't like. You, Aristophanes, who wrote that under every stone lurks a politician, who called wealth the most excellent of all the gods. You, who are responsible for the following conversation. I want all to have a share of everything, and everything to be in common. There will no longer be rich or poor. I shall begin by making land, money, everything that is private property, common to all. But who will till the soil? The slaves. No. And yet you're seen as homework, drudgery. That, my friend, is a true tragedy. On the upside, we did take care of slavery. It only took us 2,000 years. Best wishes, John Green. When we think about the high point of Greek culture, exemplified by the Parthenon and the plays of Aeschylus, what we're really thinking about is Athens in the 4th century BCE, right after the Persian Wars. But Greece was way more than Athens. Greeks lived in city-states, which consisted of a city and its surrounding area. Most of these city-states featured at least some form of slavery, and in all of them, citizenship was limited to males. Sorry, ladies. Also, each of these city-states had its own form of government, ranging from very democratic, unless you were a woman or a slave, to completely dictatorial. And the people who lived in these cities considered themselves citizens of that city, not of anything that would ever be called Greece. At least until the Persian Wars. So between 490 and 480 BCE, the Persians made war on the Greek city-states. This was the war that featured the Battle of Thermopylae, where 300 brave Spartans battled, if you believe Herodotus, 5 million Persians, and also the Battle of Marathon, which is a plain about 26.2 miles away from Athens. The whole war started because Athens supported those aforementioned Ionian Greeks when they were rebelling in Anatolia against the Persians. That made the Persian king Xerxes mad, so he led 2 major campaigns against the Athenians, and the Athenians enlisted the help of all the other Greek city-states. In the wake of that shared Greek victory, the Greeks began to see themselves as Greeks rather than as Spartans or Athenians or whatever. And then Athens emerged as the de facto capital of Greece and then got to experience a golden age, which is something that historians make up. But a lot of things did happen during the golden age, including the Parthenon, a temple that became a church and then a mosque and then an armory until finally settling into its current gig as a ruin. You also had statesmen like Pericles, whose famous funeral oration brags about the golden democracy of Athens with rhetoric that wouldn't sound out of place today. If we look to the laws, they afford equal justice to all in their private differences. If a man is able to serve the state, he is not hindered by the obscurity of his condition. And when you combine that high-minded rhetoric with the undeniable power and beauty of the art and philosophy that was created in ancient Athens, it's not hard to see it as the foundation of Western civilization. And if you buy into this, you have to be glad that the Greeks won the Persian Wars. But even if you put aside the slavery and other injustices in Greek society, there's still trouble. Do I have to say it? Seriously? Fine. Trouble. Right here in River City with a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for Peloponnese. Pericles' funeral oration comes from a later war, the Peloponnesian War, which was a 30-year conflict between the Athenians and the Spartans. The Spartans did not embrace democracy, but instead embraced a kingship that functioned only because of a huge class of brutally mistreated slaves. But to be clear, the war was not about Athens trying to get Sparta to embrace democratic reform. Wars rarely are. It was about resources and power, and the Athenians were hardly saintly in all of this, as evidenced by the famous Melian dialogue. Let's go to the thought bubble. So in one of the most famous passages of Thucydides' history of the Peloponnesian War, the Athenians sailed to the island of Melos, a Spartan colony, and demanded that the Melians submit to Athenian rule. The Melians pointed out that they'd never actually fought with the Spartans, and were like, listen, if it's all the same to you, we'd like to go Switzerland on this one, except of course they didn't say that because there was no Switzerland, to which the Athenians responded, and here I am quoting directly, "The strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must." Needless to say, this is not a terribly democratic or enlightened position to take. This statement, in fact, is sometimes seen as the first explicit endorsement of the so-called theory of realism in international relations. For realists, interaction between nations or peoples or cultures is all about who has the power. Whoever has it can compel whoever doesn't have it to do pretty much anything. So what did the meritocratic and democratic Athenians do when the Melians politely asked not to participate in the fight? They killed all the Melian men and enslaved all the women and children. So yes, Socrates gave us his interrogative method, Sophocles gave us Oedipus, but the legacy of ancient Greece is profoundly ambiguous. All the more so because the final winner of the Peloponnesian War were the dictatorial Spartans. Thanks for the incredible bummer, Thought Bubble. So here's a non-rhetorical question. Did the right side win the Persian Wars? Most classicists and defenders of the Western tradition will tell you that of course we should be glad the Greeks won. After all, winning the Persian War set off the cultural flourishing that gave us the classical age, and plus, if the Persians had won with their monarchy, they might have strangled democracy in its crib and gave us more one-man rule. And that's
You like John Green, don't you?
Yes.
Don't you read him? But don't you find that he talks really fast?
Yes, it's very hard to keep up.
So does his brother Stan Green.
Gosh.
Biology.
Oh yeah, biology.
Yeah.
That's what
Biology jewelry, what?
his
There's
brother
one
did
crash
science
course
stuff.
video for biology and it was like the same species.
Oh, I know. And I rarely show it. I rarely show it. But notice. It does give us a nice limited thing as opposed to reading a textbook. You can review it. And so now let's digest it. Let's make him shut the F up. Let's break it down. Let's chew on it. Let's swallow it. Let's poop it. In that order. Okay, so we're going to chew on and swallow it, and then you're going to poop it on the test. Showing that you've learned
Not diarrhea.
about Greek. Okay? So let's get ready to eat some Greek knowledge, okay? Would you like a little salt and pepper with that?
I like some chili flakes, actually.
First of all, let's take this word totalitarian out. I do want you, for this, our unit here, perk up. Our unit here is power. Perk up. You're making everybody tired with that body language. Our unit. Somebody was telling me those chairs make it really hard to sit up. But I don't think it makes you sit back that far. We need a vocab section dedicated here because guess what Greece gives us above all? He even told us.
Words.
Our political vocabulary, he said somewhere. Our political vocabulary. So
Democracy. That's
that will come. The first word is not particularly a Greek word, but I do want to go ahead and include it because totalitarian we've already defined. That is a political term. Totalitarian governments. Totalitarian governments. The people have no freedom. The governments control the totality of their lives. Okay? So you have no rights. The government controls you totally. What you can read, what you can watch, what you can do, where you can go, everything. What you can believe. What, you want to go to church? Excuse me? You think this is some sort of like free society? No, this is a totalitarian society. Yes?
Isn't that like a dystopian genre?
Depends on if it's a bad one. Can you imagine a totalitarian government where everybody's like, this is awesome? I can. I can imagine a totalitarian government where like what's on TV is excellent. And when I'm like driving down the street, there's not like advertisements, there's poems and beautiful paintings and nice sculptures. And all the kids are above average. All of them. That's the joke. Okay.
What?
It's my dry humor. Moving right along. So totalitarian government. Now, let's talk about the other thing that he brought up, because you just did it. Who said, isn't that bad? Totalitarian government, isn't that bad? Who asked that question? And it's a perfectly good question, because, dudes, I teach the history of China, and I have gotten inside of it enough to understand it from the inside. I understand the communist dictatorship. And I talk to grown-ups who just have this thing, historical bias. Historical bias. Come on, friends. Isn't totalitarianism bad? My bias is that if it's not free and democratic, by definition it's bad.
Second thought.
There you go. It is one of those things. Now, does that mean that I'm saying that totalitarianism is good? No, it could be bad. Is democracy good? Our historical bias says yes. That's why we wage wars and we say we're going to spread democracy to Iraq, to Afghanistan, to Libya, to also... America has invaded so many countries in your lifetime. More than China has invaded in my lifetime. I'm 52. America's invaded more countries in your lifetime than China has invaded in mine. And yet we talk about how good democracy is and how good America is. Also, you know, we're number one. We wave our flag. We're proud. There are many good things about America, but notice the bias. Just there is this bias thing here. So when I defend China against people who criticize it for not being America, the historical bias is just insane. I have like professional, even well-educated adults screaming as if I just like ate a child for saying, you know, I don't know, I think that Hong Kong should actually like not threaten China's stability right now. I think China's government's doing it, blah, blah, blah. So historical bias. He's interesting on this. Because notice what came out of all of your mouths about Greece. It was interesting. Civilized. Intellectual, artistic, all these things. So totalitarianism. Is the concept clear? Notice that Persia. What did Persia do on its way to fight the Greeks? No, I'm sorry, that's wrong. In 539, we just left Persia. What did Persia do in 539 that was in our last story?
Babylon.
And
Babylonian exile.
They ended the Babylonian.
they ended the Babylonian exile, and they started what for the Jews? The Second Temple period. And so they're the big guys in the neighborhood now. Now, what country is Persia today? Iran. Good. This is important for you to know. Now, I know that learning stuff, your brain likes to not learn. It's like running up a hill. Who wants to do that? But Allison, don't you realize that when you meet somebody from Iran, that they identify with this stuff. They're very proud. What did we just learn about the Persian Empire? It was the biggest, most powerful, and was it a bad one? Did it sound bad to you?
Not really.
So the Achaemenid or the Achaemenid, I don't even know, it's hard to pronounce. They took over all this land, but it sounded nice because of what? We're calling the Greeks civilized. How were the Persians civilized? Middle Easterners.
They didn't.
Open-minded, yeah, what else?
They banned slavery and they didn't force religion on others.
Yeah. And he was called the King of Kings. This is a very interesting thing. He was called the King of Kings. That showed that what?
He was respected.
No. Hear that. I am a king of kings. What does that show about my empire?
He's the most powerful.
But what does that show about the way I'm exercising power here? What is an empire? Oh, let's pull back. What's the difference between a monarchy and an empire? Chloe?
An empire is like control over different countries, and monarchy
Right.
is like one person in control.
We've just conquered the Indus, Egypt, and Turkey, Anatolia. Right? There were kings there. What did he do with them? Allison? There were kings in these places that the Persian guy conquered for his empire. And being the king of kings, what did he do with these kings? Huh? He let them rule. We're talking about how civilized Greece is? If I were Persian, I would say, what an insult. You want civilized? Look at us.
Look what we did.
Our empire was awesome. Now, who's the biggest Greek empire builder? Do you know that basic fact? There's only one great in Greek history, and it's Alexander. Because Alexander made an empire even bigger than the Persian, and he beat the Persians. So let's compare how civilized the Greeks were under Alexander towards ruling other people with the Persians. By the way, to pull this back into what's in the news today, do you guys know the 3 countries that George W. Bush, the president when you were born, I guess? No, you were born in what, 2000?
Yeah.
1999.
Okay, he was elected and served in 2000. Yeah, so wow, you're children of the Bush years. 8 years under Bush. Wow.
Ugh.
And he labeled 3 countries the axis, meaning line of evil. Do you know what 3 countries? The President of the United States stood in front of televisions and said 3 countries are not bad, not wrong, but freaking evil.
Oh my god.
Right?
Why would he do that?
Do you know what 3 countries he called evil?
Iran.
Iraq,
Palestine.
North Korea.
Oh, yeah, that was a given.
Nope. Iran.
I said it was
Wait, so Iraq, Iran, and
So, our democracy called the axis of evil.
Why did they do this?
Iraq, Iran, and North Korea.
but why?
Because none of them are democracies?
Oh my god. That is very bad.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what countries has the U.S. invaded since he called them evil? North Korea, when it saw America do that to Iraq, which did nothing to America, said, you know what we need to do really fast? Make a nuclear bomb. Because when you have a nuclear bomb, America won't touch you. Right? If you don't have one and they don't like you, history suggests that they do. So it's really important to get a nuclear bomb because that way America won't touch you. So North Korea got a nuclear bomb. Iran is trying to build a nuclear bomb right now. This is the other thing in the news today. So when you hear about American hostility towards Iran, we've got really bad relations. Iran is a big enemy of Israel, which at least believes in our one God, whereas Iran is Muslim. So look at that. Athens, democratic Athens versus a different Persia. And then democratic United States versus a different Persia. And we don't let Persia trade with most of the developed world. We don't let them trade with us. We're trying to strangle them and make them fail so that they'll be like us. This historical bias. Where shall we start? Let's just get this down right now. So, okay, so I do want you to know the name of, no I don't. Just Persian Empire is fine. You don't have to know this $5 name because you'll forget it, and it's okay. Greek words are the worst for memorizing. But I do want you to know Persian Empire. Zach, are you with me? Can you remember Persian Empire? Because that's the same one that started the Second Temple period, and the Bible was written because of them. These guys are, if you should know Darius, because he started the empire. You should know Zoroastrianism. I'm going to show you the root and let you see if you know it. Jamie, what is this?
Roast.
ASTR. What word do you know in English? If it's a root that's important, you know a word with it in it. What words do we know? ASTR, huh?
Master.
That's a good one, but try to...
Astronomy.
Astronomy, what else?
Astronomical.
That's a form of the word astronomy.
Astronaut.
Okay, astronaut. What does astro mean? Astronaut, astronomy? Star. So aster. Oh, aster. Check that out. This is the cool thing about our language, our root system. Aster. What's this thing? What's that thing? Asterisk. Right? Our little star punctuation. So yes. So.
Oh my God.
So Zoroastrianism. I don't know what the Zoro part means. But in any case, this is a really interesting religion because it's the first one that says this. Some of you will go, oh, I thought my religion was the only one that said this. No, the big Persians who freed the Jews from Babylon and put them back in to build their temple in Jerusalem had this religion when the Persians met them. A dualistic religion. There is a God of good, an all-good God, and an all-evil God. And they are in a cosmic battle between good and evil. And all humans have to choose which gods they're going to fight for in this cosmic battlefield of life between the good God and the evil God. That's why we have this word dualism. So look how the Persians looked at life. Black and white. Good and evil. If you are interested in philosophy or religious studies or understanding just how many different ways there are of seeing the world, this is a very, very, very interesting thing. Black and white in Taoism, is that a battle? You remember the yin yang?
They work together.
They're in harmony. They actually they balance each other. They are necessary to each other. Day needs night, night needs day. There's no such thing as evil, Satan, the beastie. There's none of that in Taoism. There's none of that in Confucianism. There's none of that in Chinese culture at all. There's no dualism, good, evil. It's all okay. Neither good nor evil. It is what it is.
Neutral.
It is what it is. So dualism, this idea of black and white. I submit to you that we are a very dualistic country because we say good, democracy, evil, not democracy, black, white. There's no gray in between dualistic thinking, where it's like, well, to what degree is it good? To what degree is it good? So, and yet despite that, and this is what else the Zoroastrian religion originated before Christianity. And the end of the cosmic battle will be the end of the world. So the cosmos has an end. God's created and God's ended. And there's a last day. So notice what we get from the Persians. Basically the devil, a satanic dark lord, a cosmic beastie, and a cosmic Ralph. Okay, that's pushing it. And yet, look at them. So their religion, even though it's very black and white, they really do seem to try to be good. Because you got a different religion, you follow it. We're not going to force it. And they outlawed slavery. The Jews, when they conquered their promised land, they enslaved people. The Greeks, we saw, lived on slave society, right? Slave labor. So who's the most civilized? in the ancient world, it's hard to deny that title should not go to the Greeks. That title should go to the Persians. Americans owned Africans until 1865. And they thought it was good and okay because they were better, black and white. These guys weren't doing it 500 years before Christ. Persia's pretty awesome. Iranians say, what? America calls us evil? We're civilized from way back. Now let's talk about homosexuality and the fact that all the Greeks were gay. If you weren't gay, you were a real fag.
What?
I just used the word and I used it not ironically, although it is ironic. I am paraphrasing from you, not the fart jokes of Aristophanes, who really does, this comedian. He has women in a war scene on stage in Greek comedy. Their men are always fighting wars because they're Greek. And the women say, we're sick of war. How can we make our husbands stop going off to war? We know we'll stop going to bed with them. And so all the Greek men try to and they fort themselves inside of walls, right? And so it's like, and all the men come back and they're trying to attack the walls that their wives are heading up in. And it becomes this comic war. And the women have to fight back the invading men from their city walls. And what do they use for their cannons? They lift their skirts and fart on the men, right? To drive them back. That's their weapon. So this is civilized, elegant, lavish Greek entertainment. On the stage, wives are farting on their men, and their men are all, falling back, right? That's Aristophanes. He's the greatest Greek comedian there is. He also told this story because he knew Plato, the great philosopher, and he told the story of why there's a man and why there's a woman, and it goes like this. In the beginning, and it's a joke, but it's a famous myth. It's a great myth. In the beginning, the gods created a whole human. 2 heads, 4 arms, and 4 legs. And a back on each side. And the heads, of course, didn't face each other, they faced out. So just picture, the second head looking that way. What a perfect, powerful man. Arms facing this way, or human. And arms facing that way, too. And legs facing that way. And our poo-poo and pee-pee things, we didn't see because they were underneath us. Actually, this is not how we were originally made. Originally, our heads were, this was our front. Our back was our front, okay? Now, and so really, it was like chest to chest we were connected with the other half of the whole human, right? So we're all half. Okay, so there were not 2 sexes, there were 3. There was the man.
The woman.
Had 2 peepees, 2 male peepees, phalluses. There was the man-woman, had 1 peepee, 1 vajayjay, and whatever that means. And there was the woman.
Excuse the interruption. Everyone who wore a lime green t-shirt or an Addie t-shirt in support of Addie today, thank you very much for doing that. We're going to take a picture in the atrium directly after school. It'll just take a minute. So if you are green today, please come take a picture. Thank you.
Okay. They were so powerful that they didn't walk because they didn't have to. They rolled. Just put their arms out, front, back, legs out, front, back, and just roll like a ball, right? Because all you got is, it's a constant cartwheel or handstand, right? So they rolled everywhere. They were incredibly powerful. And the gods got scared of them. Zeus got especially scared of them. So Zeus took his lightning bolt and he was like, they're going to overthrow us on Mount Olympus. We can't let them do that. So we got to make them half as powerful as they are right now. How do we do it? We split them. Straight down the middle, and then let's humiliate them by turning their head around so they can see where they were split. Because your nipples are where they tied up your skin, where he split you, and your belly button is where they tied up this part. And so all of that, turn the head so that we look at it and we're reminded of the fact that we're only half of what we used to be. Where does love come from? We're looking for our other half, Allison. That's where love comes from. And so, superior people are the men looking for the other man. so they can be the man again. And that's the superior person. The inferior person is the man looking for his second half, which was the woman, the man-woman, trying to get back to being man-woman. That's an inferior one. Of course, at the very bottom is the woman-woman, the lesbian looking for her second half.
So the woman would be considered better.
Everyone's
looking
bisexual.
for someone of the opposite sex.
Yeah.
But the man
Yeah.
would be considered.
And so a real man,
So everyone's bisexual?
so if you weren't gay, you were a real wuss. You were a prissy little unman, okay? And these guys invented democracy and elegance and plays where women fart on their husbands. And this is classical literature. And throw poop on their enemy poets, which John Green shared with us. Oh, but you... I always tell teachers not to show John Green, for that very reason. He goes to